Hi, everybody. It's Michelle Hill, your legacy builder at Winning Proof, and I'm here with another episode of Winning Proof Unscripted. Today, I have a very special guest, Shari Alexander, and Shari is let me get my, hold on here. Got to get my bio going. Shari Alexander is an executive communication coach and message strategist, helping niche subject matter experts create connection, provide education, and inspire action. Shari facilitates coaching sessions, workshops, and done-for-you services. So, hi, Shari, how are you doing today?
I'm very well, thank you. I'm looking forward to our conversation.
Me too. So, in your LinkedIn description or about you section, and I love this, and you say, I absolutely love nerding out over mindful, aligned, and strategic messaging. What does that mean?
Sure. So we live obviously in very unique times thanks to the internet and everything that it brings. And one of those fascinating situations we find ourselves in is that everybody has their own personal brand, and small businesses and the types of entrepreneurs that I work with have to become their own media outlets in a lot of ways. They build their audiences. They even micro audiences are becoming more and more powerful. And I'd say back in the quote unquote olden days with like the Ogilvy agency doing all the marketing and advertising, it was very strategic. It was very pointed at particular demographics. And even if you had to fake it till you made it kind of an approach. But as more and more studies show with current generations and upcoming generations, transparency and authenticity are really key because we get to see people and brands across so many different media, and you get access to them more often that it gets really hard to fake it more and more these days. Yeah. And so I began my career in the world of influential communication skills. I am fascinated by the power that we can wield with our words, and yet we're not taught much about it. And then you get into the sticky realm of like manipulation and the misuse of it. So for me, I consider myself very fortunate to work with individuals and brands that want to connect with their audiences in an authentic way, provide education so they can empower their audiences to make decisions for themselves regarding whatever those services may be that they're selling. And there's a process to that. There's the strategic side of you need to have intention with your message. You need to have certain tactics and know how to button things up in a particular way. And also, when you're talking about communication, there's a personal connection to it. And that's where a lot of that difficult road starts to come through. That's where imposter syndrome starts to show its sneaky self. That's when, really getting clear on who you are, what you're about, what you stand for. That's a lot of an internal process that I think gets missed in the conversation of influential communication. And that's what I love because it's bringing out our humanity in our marketing.
Yeah, and that's the ones win who connect with their audience the best and who engage with their audience the best, not just blindly post a bunch of stuff, random stuff. It's the ones who engage with their audience in a real meaningful way.
Right. And that can look in so many different ways because it's so easy to follow certain marketers and gurus of all different types and to see what they're doing and try to mimic it. And I get that, you want to understand the paths to success, but ultimately you have to forge your own path. And trying to be like so-and-so or do such and such like that person did, the magical moments that I find when working with my clients is when you understand how that works, but then you let go of it and do it your own way, do your own thing, And that's what builds that connection that you were just talking about, because your audience is like, I get that person. They are my people. And it's like I said, it's a very magical moment when that happens. And I get to facilitate that journey as a coach and message strategist with my clients. And there are similar themes, but everyone is different, unique, and that's what keeps me on my toes.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And speaking of imposter syndrome, I have been a follower of Valerie Young for many years, if you're familiar with her. And I was able, when I lived in California, to go to a workshop that she did. I bought her course on imposter syndrome. So how do you help somebody, say a woman comes to you that and she identifies herself as imposter syndrome. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't, but she describes to you, I'm afraid somebody's going to find out I don't know what I'm talking about, or all the wrappings around imposter syndrome. How would you, in a nutshell, and I know that's a huge question, how would you help her to get out of that? And it's okay to be who you are. It's okay not to know every single thing in the whole world.
Sure. Yeah. It's more than okay, because it's impossible.
Impossible. Yes.
So in my line of work, I mean, a handful of times in discovery calls with clients, they will use the term imposter syndrome, but usually there's a bit of a preamble that comes with that. It's something along the lines of, I know I should be doing X, Y, and Z. I know I should get a newsletter out there. I know I should be doing videos. I know I should be going to more events and speaking. I know I should be promoting myself. And so first of all, they start from a place of should, which is an external force. It's not coming from the inside out of, I love speaking. I love creating videos. I love writing and sending out posts or newsletters. So right away, they're not connecting to themselves. And second is procrastination tends to be that flag to me of there's some imposter syndrome going on, because when it's coming from the inside and that like ball of energy is inside, you just can't stop yourself. But if you either are procrastinating on doing the thing, or you do the thing but you don't hit send, that's the other version of that. And so where I help my clients is either in discovering how to make it their own, because maybe they're using templates or scripts again from some other guru that they enjoy and dare I say idolize, but it's not coming from them. And so that's their subconsciousness telling them like, it's not me. I can't send that out. So finding their own voice, which involves identifying and being very honest about your strengths and your weaknesses, because we want to leverage your strengths. There's so many different ways in which we can communicate with one another these days, both on a one-on-one level as well as a one to the masses level. And we often, or my clients find themselves, and I have too over the years, trying to stay within a certain framework that you think is what you got to do or should do. And you lose creativity in like, where do you excel most? Because goodness knows we can find the tool to help you maximize that thing. But if you're keeping yourself in a box over here, we can't find the right box that you can, really make shine. So there's that level. There's the getting very honest with themselves about what they're good at and what they're not, what their preferences are and what they're not. And then lastly, it kind of falls under imposter syndrome, because oftentimes when somebody's wanting to get a message out there, but either not quite doing it, or it's not clicking, or it's not getting the business results that they want, it's because they're not attaching a clear intention, or as we say in marketing, call to action at the end of the message. They're expecting their customers and their clients to come through osmosis without the direct ask. And if they're afraid of the direct ask in an authentic, aligned way, if they're still not doing that, then there's a little bit of I don't trust myself. I don't believe in myself. I don't, whatever the story is, which we've all had the stories in our head at one point or another. So those tend to be the flags and the diagnoses that I weave around and find our pathways through.
Yes. Oh, that's so true. And I love the whole imposter syndrome arena because there's so much. And even though men are affected by it, it's the bulk of women that are really affected by it. And I know Valerie in her research and in her stories has said, highly accomplished women, CEOs of companies struggle with, oh my gosh, they're going to find out. It's like they're keeping a secret. Like everyone in the world's going to find out that I shouldn't be in this position, that it was a fluke, or that you have a best-selling book and that was just beginner's luck. And, we explain it away, or those with imposter syndrome explain it away like we didn't really do that. So there's a lot of layers to that. And I'm glad you work with those women because there's a lot out there that struggle with that.
Yeah. And I work with both men and women. It's about 50-50. And I can share that everybody experiences it. Like everybody experiences it. It shows up in lots of different forms, and they might talk about it in different ways, but and truth be told, I much prefer to work with clients that have some element of quote unquote imposter syndrome, because that means they have humility. It's those that are overconfident, over narcissistic, don't do those gut checks of, is this correct? Is this ethical? Because I've had some clients over the years, one in particular comes to mind, where I worked with this person for a certain amount of time, and then just felt like the ethics started to really dwindle over the years because that person's success got bigger and bigger and grander and grander. And all of a sudden those gut checks tended to stop. Mm-hmm. And so that was one of the very few clients that I fired, because it's like you gotta check yourself along the way to make sure you're consistently being of high service and high ethics to your clients. So I'm totally okay working with people that have some struggles with imposter syndrome, because if you don't, I'm kind of skeptical of you.
That is excellent. Yeah. And being overly confident, there's a point of being, and I did an article about this years ago as pertained to athletes, pro athletes. There's confidence and then there's cocky, and there's a line in between the two. So I think, that kind of describes what you're talking about. But I wanted to ask you, how did you originally get into being an executive communication coach? How did that happen? Did you always want to be that, or did you stumble on it?
Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit of both. I was exposed to the world of coaching and professional speaking at a fairly young age. My father did some consulting work when I was younger, and through that he got involved in the National Speakers Association, the Oklahoma chapter at the time where I was living. And whenever there was a speaker that came to town that he thought that I'd be interested in when I was a teenager, I was fortunate to go see some honestly high level New York Times best-selling authors and speakers. And so I knew that this world existed, and I knew a business can be made out of it. I did go into the corporate world for a brief time after I graduated college. And at that time, I was doing PR for a national company. And very quickly, thanks to my presentation skills, I was a theater major also in college and had tons of stage time growing up, as well as my access to these speakers over the years. I was able to land very large accounts very quickly for that organization. And all of a sudden, people from my office and offices in different states were saying, hey, could you take a look at this presentation that I'm doing for such and such? And I was like, oh, maybe I have a skill set here. So,
yes.
And so it was about a year later that I opened up the doors to my professional speaking and coaching business. And I've been doing it now for about 14 years, and it's had its evolutions. And but where it's at now and the people that I get to work with and working with subject matter experts on creating marketing campaigns that are both personable, meaning like in real life interactions with people, as well as the online world. So I say we create hybrid marketing campaigns and strategies to help them create a message that educates a target market to empower them to make well-informed decisions about complicated services, anything from banking security to healthcare to I navigate through some hefty industries, all the way to, you know, nutrition coaching and working with other executive coaches. Okay. It's a real joy. And yeah, I just appreciate the fact that we get to work with so many different ways of communicating with people, instead of saying like, you got to have this one thing and we build this one thing for you. We match it to the person, the audience, the voice, and the intention.
I love that. Yes. And companies, I think with the way our economy is headed, that I think, and I was just having this conversation with a friend of mine just before our call, is it seems like the smart companies are the ones, when the economy is exploding, they're the ones investing. Everybody else freezes, and the smart ones are the ones that are going forward with gusto. They're investing in their social media because that's the lifeline to their clients and to everybody else. Is that?
Yeah, so one of my soapboxes.
Get on it.
And so let me clarify here. My clientele tend to be service-based, small to medium-sized businesses who sell what typically is called high-ticket items. So generally nothing less than 20K at the bare minimum is what their services start at. So let me start with that context.
Okay.
And for my clientele, in addition to, yes, do your social media, get your message out there, because that is planting seeds that will grow over time. We tend to see the biggest results and at a faster pace when working with our clients on leveraging their current network. So to not ignore the people that are within arm's reach of you, and not get so wrapped up in the digital world, because the digital world, let's face it, it feels kind of safe because you're behind a screen and you can schedule things out and you can create drafts before they go out. I get it. I live it. I do it for my clients. I'm all for it. And also let's just put in just as much energy, if not more, into your current network of reaching out, having meaningful conversations, staying in touch with people, and focusing on real world events. Truth be told, pretty much all of my clients have some aspect of speaking to their portfolio of marketing, whether that's virtual, whether that's podcasts like this, or going to trade shows and association meetings to, again, I go back to educate, because those are real life connections that are so much stronger than the digital world. And also, this is the big thing, it leads to more referrals, to the point where a number of my clients fairly quickly cannot keep up with the leads because the referrals come in, and those referrals are so much more sticky than a like or a comment on social media. Those people are so much more willing to do business with you because someone that they know, like, and trust said that they know, like, and trust you. So they're more likely to know, like, and trust you to help them out. I think, you know, the world of the internet gives us so many shiny objects and so many squirrels to chase that one of my soapboxes is, let's not forget about the human beings that are already around us.
Yes, that's so something I missed, you know, is a face-to-face contact. You know, Zoom, yes, we're screen to screen, but not sitting across the table. So yeah, that's really valid. Is there, okay, so this brings up a question. Is there ever a time when a company that has built a strong brand, they have a good communication message, can they rest on their laurels? Can they rest? Do you always have to be on the offensive?
Well, okay. Rest on their laurels. I wouldn't phrase it that way, but what they can do is implement intentional SOPs, standard operating procedures within their business. And then they can quote unquote rest on those SOPs. So that's one thing that we do for our clients as behind the scenes is what are those SOPs? So both you and your team members and all of your new hires know what to do at what stage, whether it's the sales process or the onboarding process, so that the referrals keep coming in, so that it's more easy, you can more easily upsell current clients. You're not experiencing client attrition like people that aren't, paying attention to those SOPs. So there might be an element of rest instead of being on the constant hamster wheel.
Okay.
That doesn't mean that you shouldn't once a year, maybe every other year, if we really want to stretch it, to double check those SOPs and make sure we dust them off and modernize them. But I would say there's more of a quiet confidence in that approach rather than what do I need to post next? What do I need to post next? And next, you're just stuck on a hamster wheel, which didn't we get into entrepreneurship to get off a hamster wheel? Wasn't that the point? I thought that was the point when I did it. So
exactly. No, that is so true. So how do you help? I have so many questions, but I'm going to limit them to our time. But how do you help your clients? Like how do you help them once a company that is your target market? And we're going to talk about that next, but how do you help them when they first come to you? Do you strategize? What is your method in a capsule?
Sure. Well, so the target market and how I help are intertwined. So usually my target market tends to reach out to me and have a conversation when they have been in business for a number of years. They have built a brand within, they serve a niche target market, and they've built a brand where they have a solid portfolio of clientele. I say that they're not green, meaning they're not, probably less than 5 years into their business. They have a number of years. They've, found their way through to become trusted among their target market. But now the situation that they're running into is they still want to experience business growth, but my entrepreneurs tend to be charismatic leaders who are relationship driven, and how they've built their current client portfolio is through those personal connections, and they're hitting that ceiling. They aren't able to scale more, to grow the business more, because so much of the sales, the marketing, and the client relations rely on them, and they are just one person. Yeah. And so where they find themselves is, I want to educate my target market so they can empower them to make good decisions. And so they want to take a thought leadership approach. So speaking one person to many, but they're so busy in the business and they don't know how to clone themselves to do their message without them being the one that does the message. So that's where I step in, is I help them get out of their own way, both on an emotional level and a logistical level. So what are the limiting beliefs that you have? With one of my clients, it just came up recently. He said, if it's going to be done right, I'm the one that has to do it. That's a limiting belief. That means that you're not properly educating and empowering your team members to accomplish what you want. So I help him on that emotional as well as the logistical side. So I help them scale their voice and scale their message through hybrid marketing campaigns. And then behind the scenes, we create standard operating procedures from a communication strategy standpoint So that way, each step of the way, their team member knows what to do.
Yeah.
So then the team can help in scaling the business.
Yes.
I just help those founders get out of their own way to see, hey, all of that knowledge and wisdom that you've built over the years, let's let more people know about it. What's getting in your way? Let's solve that and let's have this baby grow.
Yeah. Yeah. And how do you help? Like, that's a control issue. How do you help them loosen that control? I mean, and again, these questions are so far that require long, complicated answers, but in a capsule, like, how do you grip? Because I know that feeling of, especially me with being a writer, like, I'm not gonna let anybody else write because I did that one time, and then if there's a typo, like, that's my brand, I can't let anybody else do that. So I understand the concept. So how do you, like, loosen up the juggernaut of control when a CEO of a large company won't let go?
Yeah, well, so typically when they come to me, it's because the pain has gotten greater than the desire for control. The pain is too much. They're losing clients, they're losing opportunities, they're losing sleep is a real big one. And so whenever let's say if they have some pushback or some of their stuff continues to get in the way, it's my job to be a mirror. It's my job to reflect back to them their intentions, their desires, their current situation. Do you want this to stay the same? Do you want to keep the thermostat at 120, or would you like to turn it down a little bit and be more comfortable? Because that's why you hired me. So that's the element of, even though we have done for you services and my team and I create a lot of things for our clients to be that fast track to get so much stuff done.
Yeah.
Even in our consulting work, all of my consulting clients are also my coaching clients, because they, as with any growth period, you make some forward momentum and then you backslide a little bit and you need a little bit of a reminder, and then you make forward momentum. So we get into our conversations are obviously strategic in nature, because this is all about business.
Yeah.
But also there can be some deep philosophical conversations. It's not my job to be their therapist, but in our work, we identify, where is that limiting belief? What's that story you're telling yourself? And sometimes I call BS on my clients because that's what they hire me for.
Yeah, absolutely. And they're glad to pay you because nobody else around them sometimes is telling them those things, because they're saying, yes, boss, whatever you want, boss. And
yeah, and it's hard to be vulnerable when you're sitting at the top, because all of those, like we just talked about at the beginning, imposter syndrome. You can't talk to your employees about imposters. I mean, you can, but it's a process to get there, and to find your purest, most influential, aligned voice. There's vulnerability that has to happen, and in the coaching process, that's the safe container for that to take place, so that you can take those quantum leaps that you're looking for.
Oh man, yeah, that's so real. So I have one final question for you. And so what does a message need to contain to be truly influential and impactful? You have 4 items here, and just, I think it would be really helpful if you just tell people what it takes.
Sure. So first of all, it has to have a listener. It has to have somebody that you're pointing the message towards, because this is a two-way conversation. Even though you're creating the message on the front end, you have a quote unquote conversational partner in this message. Yeah. So it takes somebody else to receive your message. For sure, for a message to be influential, you have to have an intention behind that message. Influence is communication with a goal. So you can be an effective communicator, but not necessarily be influential. And most of our day is spent being good communicators. But influence is communication with a goal. And that requires clarity of intention. So that's usually the first step when I'm working with my clients and they're like, we want to create, we want to create this social post. We want to create this newsletter. We want to create a video. First question, what do you want the listener or the viewer or the reader to feel and to do by the end of this?
Yep.
Because so many, we just skip that step because we want to say the thing that we want to say, but without that intention, it goes back to Stephen Covey, start with the end in mind. Exact same thing with your influential message.
Yeah.
So you have your receiver, you have your intention. The next thing is it needs to connect with that receiver. So there needs to be some sort of connection point where that person who's listening, reading, viewing your message says, this is for me. This person gets me.
Yeah.
And in order to get that connection, you need to learn how to observe and empathize with your target market, to take yourself out of the equation, not what you think about your services, not what you think about your knowledge and everything that you know, what they think about it, what they feel about it. And so to whittle all of that down, it's basically a 3-step process: observe, connect, influence. Observe the person that you're paying attention to, build empathy for where they are at right now with their challenge, connect with them on those points, and then influence them with that authentic, aligned intention that you have set for them.
Oh, that is so excellent. I hope, people will grab a hold of that, because there is so much just posting for the sake of posting out there. And that message, what you said right there, is that would revolutionize even the small person, the little fish, trying to swim in the big pond of social media. That would affect them too. So I'm really, really, thankful you shared that. So tell people how to connect with you, how they can connect with you online. If there's a company, a CEO of a company watching, and he's just like, oh my gosh, I need her. I need her services, and they want to connect with you. How can they do that?
Sure. Well, I am available if you'd like to reach out and simply ask a question, or are interested in our services. You can go to Elevated I, that's the letter I, so elevatedi.com. You can go to the contact page and fill out a quick form. Let me know a little bit about you, your situation, what you do, and who you serve. So, and then from there, if we see that there's a potential fit, because I am very clear on who we can best fit, then we'll hop on a call. And if I don't quite see a fit, no harm, no foul, I will still send some resources that I think would be benefit for you and where you're at your particular stage in business. If anybody is interested in hiring me for speaking, there's also a speaking form on that contact page as well. And then for some free and fun downloads, you can go to mindreaderblueprint.com. So this will help you observe your ideal client, your target market, really get into the psychographics versus the demographics of your target market. So that can be found at mindreaderblueprint.com. And there's also the influential personality type quiz on our main website at elevatedi.com. Just look up in the upper right-hand corner. You can take the quiz to learn some of your own influential strengths and weaknesses, at what you can leverage and what you might want to work on. We give some handy dandy phrases to help serve each of the personality types. And there's plenty of articles on the website. I work with subject matter experts that love to educate, because I also love to educate. So there's plenty of information out there that I'm always more than happy to help.
Well, that is awesome. I'm going to go on after this and I think I have a little bit of time before my my Zoom at 2:00, and I'm going to go on there and take that assessment myself. And see, yes. So I'm so glad, and I will put all this in the show notes, so you'll have all the links and everything, so you can connect with Shari on that. So any parting words of wisdom for somebody that might be listening that thinks everything is so overwhelming and they can't do it, and they just are throwing their arms up in the air going, forget it, I'll just stay small?
Sure. And you know what? I'm 5 foot, so I'm okay with small. I think there's something to be said. There's something to be said for being small and powerful. I think that you
Yes,
can be
I'm
both.
5'3", so I'm the same. I'm a shorty. So yes, small but
Um,
powerful.
for sure, in some things, size might matter, but I don't think this is one of them. And what I mean by that is, like I said, all of my clientele serve niche target markets,
Yes.
not broad markets, niche target markets, and they develop lucrative businesses by focusing on those niche target markets. And if you are interested in educating and empowering that target market, then taking a thought leadership approach is your best approach. If you're somebody that has been a charismatic leader and who has been relationship driven, I for sure understand how taking a look at the algorithms and trying to please the bots with social media and all the different options that we have can be overwhelming. One thing I have observed with all of my clients is that there's somebody else in that target market who has a bigger and louder voice than their own. And they know that that person isn't sharing all the right stuff or is doing it in a sleazy way. And so I just encourage you to add your voice to that conversation. Just because that person's louder, they might be doing harm to that target market. And if you're letting those imposter syndrome demons get in the way, then that's a loss to your target market. They are not being served well if that's the path that you choose. And there are options, there are resources. And for sure, you can get out of your own way so you can serve better in this time that we have on this planet. And if you see a good fit in me to help you do so, I'd be honored to do so. And if not, there's plenty of resources out there to help you through. And just know that myself and Michelle here, we're cheering you on, and appreciate you guys listening. And I hope that this has been of a help.
Yes, well, it has to me. I have just gleaned a lot of golden nuggets, but I wanted to have you on because I knew that a lot of people can really benefit from what you had to say and what you have said. So I'm really thankful. Thank you so much for being having a conversation with me today.
One of my favorite things to do. Thank you for the invitation.
Yeah, absolutely. And if anybody, please like, subscribe, and share this podcast with your social media network. And that would be awesome. And you'll find it, I'll upload it. You'll get it probably a little later today. And I would appreciate all that. And I'm Michelle Hill, your legacy builder at Winning Proof. And you can find Winning Proof at winningproof.com or winningproof@gmail.com. That's my email. And I am very accessible. So if you have a book idea, I can help take it from the idea to publication. So thank you for watching, and until next time, thank you for watching another episode of Winning Proof Unscripted.